today, I'm ranking every single Fortnite medallion from the very worst one to the best. And I'm ranking them based on the medallion and the mythic weapon that you get to account for Chapter 5 Season 1, where all the medallions were the same. So we got to start off with the worst medallion at number 16. And this one is no surprise, the Mysterio Stealth Medallion. So this medallion is basically clickbait. It claims that it gives you stealth, but in reality, we can still see you. It makes a lot of noise when you're entering stealth. It's not permanent stealth. It's gonna, only last like a minute. And the thing is, you're already marked on the map when you have a medallion, so you can't even be sneaky with it because people do have their guard up whenever they see that yellow circle on them. The worst part is if you turn down your graphics, it actually makes the medallion weaker. When I play on performance mode, I can see the medallion players even more clear and they're highlighted for me while they're invisible. While if someone's playing on console, it is more of a camo that sometimes works. But the fact that you can counter this medallion by turning on performance mode is already a joke. And the fact is, nobody picked this up. In so many of my games, I see the Mysterio medallion on the ground. We didn't even see this used in competitive formats. People just left it because it was not useful. Both pros and casuals agreed not to use this thing, and that's why it's the worst. But let's move on to number 15. The second worst medallion has to be the birthday medallion, which they just added for Fortnite's 7th birthday. Now, I'm not going to be as harsh on this one because this was just added as like a meme medallion to celebrate Fortnite turning 7. But the issue is that it gave you balloons and you couldn't really control when the balloons came up. It just happened every like 30 seconds. A balloon would pop up and it would completely throw you off. It would give away your position. It would give away your location. The only good thing is that you weren't marked on the map. But balloons are pretty much just for memes and trolling. And there wasn't a lot of weapons you could even combine with the balloons like you could back in Chapter 4 Season 1, where you use the balloons and the shockwave hammer and the Excalibur to actually use balloons properly and in a safe way. This season, there wasn't a combo like that. So this was definitely the second worst. But at least people did pick them up, unlike Mysterio's. At number 14, we have Aspect of Combat. This was also another medallion that a lot of players chose to leave on the ground, but not for the same reasons as Mysterio. It was a cool idea. You pick up this medallion and you get a little bit of a damage buff to your weapons. But the issue was the buff wasn't significant. Your AR would do 1 extra damage. Your SMGs would do 1 extra damage. And if you had a higher rarity gun, maybe you would do 2 extra damage. But that 1 or 2 extra damage that you got from defeating the Arius boss just wasn't worth being marked on the map. The only redeeming quality of this medallion was that you did get the mythic assault rifle from defeating Arius, which people did pick up and use, which is why this isn't necessarily last on this list or second last. At number 13, we have Aspect of Speed. This one was also kind of cheeks. It gave you a speed boost when you sprinted, and it allowed you to jump higher when sprint jumping. It also eliminated fall damage when sprinting off of high places. The only downside was that the sprint actually ran out, so you had to wait for it to kind of refresh, and you would only be able to use it for a few seconds. And the other thing was that you had to kill Zeus, which took forever, and every single time somebody fought Zeus, they would get third-partied and fourth-partied because it was like a whole boss fight in the middle of the game, and he had a ton of health. Now, the medallion was actually kind of useful, but the mythic that it's attached with was the Zeus DMR. The mythic DMR that Zeus dropped was kind of cheeks, and I personally hate the DMR. Now, I know some of you console players might like it, but I did not like the DMR, and most people do not like DMRs. So that is why this is so low on this list. At number 12, we have the Ringmaster Scar Medallion. This one might come as a surprise because not many people remember what this medallion even did. It gives a damage boost of 5 to 6.5% depending on the weapon and the rarity, but it also gave you infinite ammo. So it was basically like the Arius medallion, but it gave you infinite ammo, and this was actually really useful with the boom bow. The boom bow, of course, used rocket ammo, and it was kind of hard to find rocket ammo. So if you got this medallion with the boom bow, which the boss did drop the mythic version of the boom bow, you could pressure people constantly and just be an absolute menace with this. The only reason this medallion is very low is because in most games, infinite ammo doesn't necessarily help you unless you're using the boom bow. And outside of that specific situation, it didn't really help you get kills or win fights unless you were spamming the boom bow. And that's why it's not higher on this list. But at number 11, we have Montes Medallion. All the medallions from Chapter 5 Season 1 did the same thing. It just gave you shield regeneration over time. They were really powerful when they first came out because you could stack all 5 of them and pretty much turn into a mini boss. But eventually they nerfed it to where it kind of caps out. But Montes is definitely the worst of all these bosses because one, you had to land at Grand Glacier and nobody lands there. So many people don't land there that in most of my Chapter 5 Season 1 games, when I opened the map, I would see this medallion in the storm because nobody lands there. The second thing is the mythic weapon was the worst mythic weapon of all the bosses in Chapter 5 Season 1, the mythic Nemesis AR. This thing was absolutely cheeks. It did not deserve to be a mythic. It kind of felt like a DMR with a slower fire rate than an AR. Like I said, all the medallions were the same this season, so the fact that this mythic sucked makes this one the worst of Chapter 5 Season 1. And we're still in Chapter 5 Season 1 with number 10, Nisha's Medallion. All of the bosses actually had 1000 HP and 400 health, and they would regenerate their shield one time after you cracked them. So none of the medallions were easy to get. But at least when you defeated Nisha, you got the Mythic Striker AR, which was 10 times better than the Montes Nemesis AR. It shot a lot faster, had no recoil, and did pretty good damage. It was definitely worth going for the Mythic Striker AR this season. The only downside is that her POI was very contested. At number 9, we have Valerie's Medallion. Remember, all of the medallions in Chapter 5 Season 1 gave you the same health regeneration, so we're basically just ranking them based off of the mythic. Now, this one was at Reckless Railway, and she actually dropped a mythic SMG, which was pretty good. It had very little recoil, did pretty decent damage. The only downside was that this season had a lot of great mobility items, like the grappler hook and sniper rifles with great attachments. So most of the time, I wasn't even running an SMG with my loadout, which is why this one is not higher on this list. But something I always ran in my loadout was a shotgun, which is why at number 8, we have Peter Griffin's Medallion. Getting this mythic shotgun was great because you felt like you could almost one-pump people with it. It always hit extremely hard, and this was a very contested medallion in all the tournaments. People wanted that mythic pump. And also, it was hilarious fighting Peter Griffin as a boss in Fortnite, so that just adds a little bit of an extra fun factor to getting this medallion. At number 7, we have Oscar's Medallion. Now, this shotgun gave me nightmares. The mythic Oscar Frenzy shotgun was terrifying, and they have nerfed it considerably, but when this thing first came out, it was the best shotgun in the game. All the pros would go for Oscar's Mythic Medallion. Clicks would go for it as well. That's where he dropped, where he got 4th place in the FNCS. And this thing was terrifying. It could 2-tap you. It felt like the primal mythic shotgun, but it was actually even better, which is why he tops the list of Chapter 5 Season 1 at number 7. At number 6, we have the Aspect of Siphon. This is a very classic ability. You kill somebody, you get 50 Siphon. Everyone was angry when Siphon got removed, and I'm glad it's being brought back into competitive, but this thing gave you a taste of Siphon in every single game if you got this medallion. This season had a lot of very powerful medallions, and the only reason I don't have this medallion ranked higher than the other ones is because in an actual fight, this medallion did not help you at all. It only came into effect after you eliminated a player, which helps you fight multiple people at once, but this didn't necessarily have an impact on a 1v1 fight. Also, you had to kill Hades, and his mythic SMG wasn't really that useful, so the mythic weapon paired with this medallion was not very strong compared to the other two. At number 5, we have Megalodon's Medallion, and this one deserves to be in the top 5 because if you guys remember in Season 3 Wrecked, there was the Nitro effect. You could get it from the portals or using the Nitro consumable, but this thing gave you Nitro permanently. You could sprint faster than everybody, you could permanently sprint, and you could run into people, damaging them, breaking their builds, and knocking them up in the sky. Nitro was very powerful when it first came out, and they nerfed it a couple times throughout the season, but even when it was at its most nerfed, this thing was still crazy. If you had this, nobody was going to catch you. You could outrun just about anybody. It was useful defensively and offensively, and it came with a pretty decent mythic combat shotgun, which was great in zero builds, but not so much in build mode, and that's why it's number 5 on this list. At number 4, we have Doombot Siphon Medallion. Now, you might be wondering, why is this medallion ranked higher than the other Siphon Medallion? But now you can actually use this medallion with Siphon so that every single time you get an elimination, you actually heal for 100 HP, allowing you to basically have double Siphon. On top of that, you got the Doom Mythic Monarch Pistol, which is a very useful gun this season and is extremely strong and underrated. You also got his gauntlets, which weren't that useful, but could still be used properly, unlike Hades SMG, which most people left on the ground. And now for our top 3. At number 3, we have the Machinist Medallion. This one might come as a surprise, but this is a combo of a really decent medallion and a really great mythic AR. This one gave you health regeneration up to 75 shield, so it kind of is similar to the Chapter 5 Season 1 medallions, but those only went up to 50. This basically made you a walking tank. Anytime you took damage, if you just got to cover or you started building and avoiding some shots, you'd be back up to 75 shield before you know it. It actually regenerated very, very fast. On top of that, you got the mythic AR that she dropped, which was the best assault rifle that season. It had absolutely no recoil and did a ton of damage. So it was great in every scenario, which is why it deserves to be top 3 on this list. At number 2, we have Emma Frost Reveal Medallion. This is so strong that Peterbot and Pollo absolutely dominated the FNCS Global Championship because of this. It basically gives you legal wall hacks. You scan somebody every like 50 seconds, and you could just drop it to your teammate, and they also got a scan as well. So you could double up, or if you're in a squad, all 4 of you could use this medallion back to back to back to constantly have scans up and be aware of where all your enemies are. And to top it off, this medallion also gave you the Mythic Burst Assault Rifle, which is probably the best assault rifle this season. It goes without saying, Peterbot and Pollo dominated the competition in Cash Cups and in the FNCS Global Championship using this combo, and that's why it's number 2 on this list. And at number 1, we have the Aspect of Agility. This medallion deserves to be number 1. Again, Peterbot and Pollo went on a perfect Cash Cup run, and they won the FNCS, having a perfect season, winning every single tournament using the Aspect of Agility. Not only was it a great medallion for mobility, constantly regenerating the green skulls without having to go into the green water, it also gave you the best shotgun we've had in Chapter 5, the Mythic Cerberus Gatekeeper shotgun. The only thing that would have made that shotgun even stronger is if it had a 5-shot barrel instead of 3. But this mythic version actually reloaded even faster than the legendary version, which only took about 1.5 seconds to reload. If you just hit 2 out of the 3 shots with this thing, you were pretty much going to get a guaranteed knock. And you could chase anybody down using the green skulls that constantly regenerated, so it was perfect for clutching up in all kinds of scenarios. It led to a perfect season for Peterbot and Pollo, and that's why it's number 1 on this list. Let me know what you guys think about this list, and if you disagree with anything, let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. I'll see you guys next time.